Do you have what it takes to actually move abroad? In this video, we'll talk about a few of the things that you may need when you're planning your move abroad. But first, hey girl, hey, my name is Tanisha Mercer. I help Black women solo travel and move abroad. If any of that sounds like you, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Also, don't forget to like and share this particular video. All right, y'all, so let's talk about it. Moving abroad. I was consulting with a client and we were going over their particular move abroad process, and this person was asking me some questions about my decision to move abroad and how I got to reach that decision. And I was telling them that it really starts with the decision to move abroad. It is oftentimes way more simpler than we make it. We make it really hard sometimes, but it literally starts with a decision. Are you going to move abroad? Where are you going to go? When will you go, right? What is your time frame? But it starts with that decision. So once you make the decision that yes, I am going to move abroad, that is when things change. Now, the one thing you can do, if you are just stuck on the process, if you need a little bit of guidance, check out the link to the description. Check out the link in the description of this video. I've got a link to where you can schedule a call with me to book my consulting services. I can kind of help you through the process, whether you are in the beginning stages, end stages, you just need someone to talk over your plan, you need a little bit of advice. It does not matter what country you're planning to move to. The move abroad process, I'm here in lovely Paris, France, but the move abroad process pretty much works the same almost, no matter what country that you're moving to. So book a call with me and we can talk about that process. But if you are just, again, it starts with a decision. It starts with a decision to actually move abroad. It starts with a decision to not self-sabotage, right? A lot of times we do self-sabotage. If I'm looking to move abroad, I don't need to be out here shopping every weekend. If I'm looking to move abroad, I don't need to be going into excessive debt. If I'm looking to move abroad, I may want to think about my long-term purchases. I can remember very clearly right before I moved abroad. It was 2022, and it was right before interest rates were going up. And I had to make a decision. I had this chunk of money saved. I left the U.S. with about $20,000. And so actually, I think I had about 25 at that time. And the decision was do I take this chunk of money and buy a house while interest rates were low? Because the thing was that at that time, the thought was that they, were going to increase. And I can remember thinking to myself, like, what do I do? I had reached out to a couple of real estate brokers. I ultimately decided not to do that because it would have taken away all of my move abroad cash. I did not want to buy a new property and have to deal with that while at the same time navigating being in a different culture, different environment, and navigating moving abroad. I just did not want to do it. I didn't want to have to hire a property management company. I did not want to just to deal with it. And so for me, that was where I had to make the decision. Am I going to really move abroad, or am I going to stay here? I had the feeling that if I bought a house, I would more than likely, I could make excuses not to move abroad. So it really starts with a decision. And for those of you who have followed my journey, you know that I talked about moving abroad for years, at least 4 years, 4 to 5 years, I talked about moving abroad. But that was all I did was talk. I just ran my mouth, talk. Oh, I love France. Oh, I'm thinking about Mexico. I'm thinking about moving abroad. But it was not a true plan. And so until you invest something in terms of time or money, it is just that. It is just talk. It is talk with no action. So I can relate. I did it for years. I just talked the move abroad game, but child, I didn't go nowhere. I went places, but traveling internationally, but in the middle of COVID, all of that stuff going on. It was just we know it was a weird time, the middle of the pandemic, right? Pandemic had just kind of kicked off. But again, talking about it and doing it are two different things. So where are you in your move abroad process? I guess you guys can see Teddy looking at me from the window, from the door. He's looking at me like, what is she doing? What's going on? It is a beautiful day here in Paris, so I'm enjoying it. Yesterday it rained, it was gray, miserable, a little cold. So I take the day as it goes. You don't know what tomorrow may bring, so we celebrate today. And so with that in mind, we are celebrating, moving abroad and your move abroad plans. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So let's get this move abroad process. Let's get this move abroad journey started today for you, right? Let's get it started. We are not going to procrastinate. We are not going to just talk. I can't tell you the number of people who I've run into who they've only talked about it. And I was in that number, okay, for a long time. I was in that number. It was not until the spring of 2022 that I got really serious about moving abroad in terms of taking a look at my finances, figuring out where I wanted to be in 6 months. And then 6 months later, I was gone. I was living in Paris. It is something that is doable. I know there are, if you're a super planner, I'm not necessarily, but it is doable. You can get yourself together in 6 months, depending upon where you are. If your finances are on track, right? If you got some money saved, you're going to need a move abroad fund. Definitely going to need a move abroad fund. We will talk more about the move abroad journey on Sunday during my live stream at 12 noon right here on YouTube. We'll talk about the move abroad journey, about move abroad and plans and all of that. So we'll sure talk about it. Hello, bonjour. We'll talk about it. Hello. We'll talk about the move abroad process and all of that, and what that means for you, what it looks like for you. Don't forget to join me 12 noon Eastern, noon to 1, May 19th, Sunday, May 19th, here on YouTube, my YouTube live. Bring your questions ready. Have your questions ready. Bring your questions ready. Have your questions ready. We'll talk about the move abroad journey, going back to moving abroad and what you're planning to do. Again, I talked about this for so long and it wasn't happening. Finally, I decided to go ahead and make the move. I thought about it and I said, I was at a great time in my life. My youngest was graduating from undergrad. My partner here in France had actually said, to me, like, okay, he knew that I wanted to move abroad, and he said, hey, you can come live with me, and come on, like let's do it. I can remember going back and forth in my head. There are a few of you who know my move abroad journey intimately, in terms of I've either called you or I have talked to you on the phone. There are like 2 or 3 people that know my move abroad journey. And it is, even though this was something that I knew I wanted to do, I had to kind of get it together in my mind that this was doable, that it was possible. Maybe that's where you are in your move abroad journey. You want to move, you don't know where, you don't know when, okay, you haven't made those key decisions yet. But if you are struggling with it, as even I did, I struggled with it at one point. I was like making excuses not to go. And finally, I just had to get to the point to where I had to shake myself and go, what do you want to do? What do I want to do? This is my life. I only have one. We don't know what tomorrow is going to hold. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. So I made a decision to move abroad. Now, you can make all different types of decisions, and there are different ways of doing this. I moved here full time, but I can tell you, the first year I traveled back and forth to the US. I went back to Atlanta and back to see my mama in Detroit like 4 times. 4 times in 1 year. That was a whole lot. But it's all about how you do it. Some of you may be educators. Maybe you have the summers off, okay? That can be your time to do a move abroad, like an extended staycation for those what 2.5 or so months. Maybe you want to do the winter break. That's a good 2 weeks or so. There are different ways of doing this. It does not have to be, my way doesn't have to be your way. Maybe you want to do slow travel and bop around different cities. Maybe you want to be, for me, I wanted to be in one location and I wanted to kind of travel from here. And so I chose Paris intentionally because I knew that I can go to other places internationally from here. And also that Paris is usually like a stopover or a layover whenever you're doing long-term international travel. And for me, Paris seemed central. I can get to the UK, I can get to Amsterdam, I can get to Germany, I can get to multiple countries in a matter of a couple of hours on a fast train, right? I can take a flight, get to the airport, take a flight, in a matter of, a couple hours. I can be in Istanbul, I can be in all these different countries in just a matter of hours. So be very strategic about where it is that you're planning on moving, keeping in mind your lifestyle, right? There are some of you who are like, I want to be closer to the US. I get it. You may want to do like a trial run, okay? In my mind, the way I looked at this, I said, okay, if I don't like this, I can always move back. And that's how I looked at it. If I don't like it, baby, I can pack my bags up and I can go right on back to the United States. So that's really how I looked at it. I know I did a lot of trips that first year going back, a lot of times going back home, but there are different ways that you can go about this. Let's discuss your plan in detail. Book a call with me. The link is in the description of this video. And we can discuss how you can create your unique and custom move abroad plan in whatever country that may be for you, taking into account your lifestyle, right? Taking into account how far you want to be from the US. For me, for example, I would love to, Southeast Asia is a place that I need to visit for sure in the next, I really want to visit this year. And so living there, though, might be a little bit different. It is a very long flight. Also, there's a time difference. I have U.S. clients, and so there's a 12-hour time difference. I sometimes struggle with the 6 hours I have here in France. So I know that 12 hours is going to be maybe a bit much for me. So you need to keep that in mind, while places like, Thailand, Indonesia, maybe Korea, South Korea may work really well for some people. It may not necessarily work for you. Maybe you're saying, you know what, Tanisha, I love France, but I don't know about living there. I don't want to do that 6-hour time difference. It takes me about 8 hours or so for a flight to get back home, anywhere from 7 to 8 hours, depending. And back home is, by home I mean Atlanta. So you may say, I don't want to be that far away. I want to be a little bit closer in. Maybe you've got some young children, younger children. Maybe you've got elderly parents. You don't want to be that far. So maybe for you, Costa Rica is an option. Maybe Mexico is an option. That's only a couple of hours away. Maybe Dominican Republic is an option. Maybe somewhere in the Caribbean is a great option for you because, or maybe it's Central or South America, because you don't want to be that far. You don't want to be that far away from the US. You want to be a relatively short plane ride away. And that's important. You have to look at what your particular circumstances are. Like, my life is not your life and your life is not my life. So taking that into consideration, let's get started on your move abroad plan. But remember, sis, it starts with a decision. It starts with a decision to actually make the move abroad. We can hem, we can haw. We can look at all the blogs, we can look at all the Instagram channels, we can look at this video, we can look at YouTube, we can watch all these travel influencers and people going lovely places. But until you make the decision for yourself to actually get out there, it is nothing but talk. I want you to make the move abroad plan this year, whether you're moving abroad or whether you're just traveling more. Remember, we have to crawl before we can walk. And even for me, what I ended up doing is I ended up doing a lot of traveling. Like every month or so, I was gone somewhere. I was gone. It got to the point that even now, people didn't realize that I actually moved to France. Like people said this on Facebook for like last week when I was talking about my my YouTube live stream. They did not realize that I actually moved. They thought I was still traveling because I was always gone. So you can go from a life of perhaps not traveling that much to beginning traveling internationally, to seeing how you like it, to scoping out different countries, to seeing where it is that you might actually want to go and want to be. And then you can make the move abroad. The biggest thing for me, I think, is letting people know that even though this is how I did it, you can do things totally differently. You may decide that, you know what, I'm going for broke. I'm gonna go ahead and make the move. Maybe I'm not gonna do slow travel. For me, I thought about bopping around, but because I had been traveling so much, I kind of wanted to get somewhere and sit down for a minute. So for me, at this stage in my life, bopping around didn't quite work for me. For some people it does. For me, traveling wears me out. Like it's a necessary evil. You feel great when you get to your location, but baby, it's getting to that location that kind of gets me sometimes. And for a while, all of the plane travel, all of the germs and stuff, I kept getting sick. Like, I'm like, why am I'm on this plane getting sick? Now, granted, I was not wearing a mask. When I get the next plane I get on, I'm for sure wearing a mask at the airport because I don't know what kind of super germs they got going on, but literally, when I flew back home in the summertime, I flew back to Atlanta. I attended my sister's wedding, and then I flew back to Atlanta, and then went to South Georgia for my family reunion. I got sick on one of those trips. When I went to Barcelona when did I go? In November, I got sick. So this time around, I'm not playing with nobody. I am making sure that, listen, I'm gonna have all my stuff together because I don't want to get sick on the plane. So for me, I think that I was just worn down. My body, I was always going, always doing, and I was just wearing myself down. So for me, take into consideration the time it takes to travel. Also take into consideration the time and the cost it takes to bop around. If you are not stationary, it can often cost you more than you probably are thinking of. It can be definitely a bigger cost. There are Airbnb rentals, there are hotels, there are all these things to think about. So keep that in mind. You guys can hear the chatter of my neighbors. We're out, again, it's a beautiful day. So make sure you stay tuned. Don't forget to share, comment, and like this video. Noon on Sunday, May 19th, the next live stream begins. Also, don't forget to click that Calendly link in the description of this video to book my consulting services. I will talk to you later. Have a good one, you guys.